Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Lead, Sell, Grow, the Human Experience Podcast. We're going to have a pretty interesting conversation today because my guest is Dr. Jean Oursler, otherwise known as the Results Queen. So what happens when the Results Queen and the Goal Guide come together to talk about what they know and what they agree on and what they may disagree on? Stay tuned for that one. All right, Dr. Jean has a Ph.D. in business psychology. She is considered one of the country's top business consultants. I'm so honored to have her on the show. She's a top-rated speaker and a world-class performance coach. She's the author of, and I'm not a fan of this title, but the author of Give Up Goals and Results Are Yours. Now, I'm the goal guide. I don't want anybody to give up goals, so we're going to find out about this one. Using innovative brain science, Dr. Jean is the creator of a groundbreaking system called Caveman Brain. Business powered by Caveman Brain. Welcome, Dr. Jean.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really super excited about this phone call. Podcast, I should say.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. All right, so talk to me. Tell me about why brain. Why? And by the way, I'm a huge X-Men fan. Like I grew up on X-Men.
Okay.
And so Dr. Jean Grey in X-Men, she had, powers to control things with her brain, just like super powerful. So there you are, Dr. Jean.
I did not know that because I didn't grow up on X-Men. So now I'm going to have to go figure out, and I'm going to have to do some research on Dr. Jean, the X person. Love that.
Yeah. I don't want to assume, but do you know Jim Quick?
No, I don't.
Really?
Yeah.
Great programs. He's the brain guy. I mean, he is the brain guy. But anyway, he references them a ton.
I have to look into him too. I've learned something in the first 2 minutes of being on this podcast. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you stick with me, you learn a lot. Pretty much every minute of the day. That's what I like to tell people about myself. You learn a lot with. All right. So how did you get involved in the brain or the science of the brain?
How did I get involved in the brain? So as a business owner, I'm always looking to get better. And I really do believe in getting results. And there came a point in my business career where my business wasn't growing. I was stuck and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Like, why was I not getting better results? And so I hired 4 coaches. One of them happened to be a Harvard neuroscientist. And in working with him, I realized that it wasn't my skill set or my toolkit that was holding me back. It was my mindset. And I know there's a lot of things about mindset nowadays, but specifically there was something called the amygdala, which is an almond-sized shape of your brain. It's in the back of your head. And it's when we were in caveman days, the whole idea is it's your internal protection system. Think fight, flight, or freeze. So once I realized that I was freezing in business development and in business growth, I thought to myself, I've got to learn more about the brain. The brain is the least studied organ in our body. We don't scan it. We just got to treat it. And so once I learned from the Harvard business scientist how to use my brain and harness it for performance improvement, as opposed to being stuck where I was in non-performance, I decided that it was time for me to do all the things that I was learning and teach it to my clients. And my clients were getting results. So I was like, okay, now I'm really into the brain. And then I decided to get a PhD in business psychology because I was really, really, really into the brain. And I do believe that the understanding your caveman brain, that's what we call it. We don't call it the amygdala. It's hard to say that all the time. And understanding how that impacts your business growth and your business results. And once you learn how to harness it, the world is your oyster.
What do you mean by harness it?
So caveman brain is, and this sounds a little crazy when I say it, is the inner voice that speaks to you all the time. It's very negative. And the reason why is because it's there to prevent you from dying. So it's always looking for ways to make sure that you stay safe. The idea with if you take that inner voice and train it to be positive and to help you find the results you're looking for, which is why we're going to probably have this conversation about goals in about 30 seconds, then the brain says, okay, I have to protect you. You want me to find results. Let me go out and do that. And so by making it positive, you're training your brain to be able to help you as opposed to hinder you.
So how do you train that voice? And by the way, let me ask you this. What is the difference between, in your opinion, between the mind and the brain?
Oh, that's an interesting question, because the mind, I think, is our perceptions of what we do, how we work, like what we decide is our reality, where the brain is the actual functioning organ.
Huh.
And you can change your mind. I realize that's a cliche when I say that. You can change your mind at any point. You can't change your brain.
But you're saying you can change your brain, or you're changing. So what are you changing when you're changing the self-talk?
So what you're self-talk, you can't change, right? That's part of the brain system. It's there to make sure that you
It's
are,
gonna self-talk.
you're always going to self-talk.
So what are
You
you
can,
changing? What it says?
you can change how you self-talk to
How do you
yourself,
self-talk?
right? So you can change from being a negative self-talk to a positive self-talk. Brain only knows what it sees and what it hears. Everything, so it doesn't know fact from fiction. And it's there to make sure that you are protected. So as long as it will come up with the negative first. And it always makes it about you. So if you can say, okay, that's negative and it's about me, I want to make it positive and about the person across the table. Like, I want to make it about you, Eric. I don't want to make it about me. Then I can learn how to do that. And I can flip that conversation pretty quickly. I can't change it. I can minimize it. Like, I'm going to say I can't change it. I mean, that it's always going to be there. So I might as well take it and make it work for me, as opposed to making it work against me.
Okay, so the example that you're giving right now, could you, if you had to script it out, could you give me an example of what that would actually sound like in your head?
Well, not in my head. I can
Or
make it in,
anybody?
right, in anybody's head.
Sure.
So it might sound something like, I don't want to be pushy, salesy, and aggressive in business development, right? I want to be the used car salesman. That a lot of people, when they have to go out and do business growth, it's, I have to grow my company, I have to grow my business, I have to grow my practice, I have to grow my whatever it might be. And I got to go talk to people. I don't want to be pushy, salesy, and aggressive.
Mhm.
That's what Caveman Brain says to you. What we would
Why
say,
does it say that though? Because it believes that you going to talk to people could kill you?
yes, because the fact is that if I come across to you as pushy, salesy, and aggressive, then you're going to reject me. And if you reject me, then I could die. And the reason why is that when we were cave people, we lived in packs. We're pack animals, right? At the end of the day, we're mammals, we're animals. And we lived in packs. And in caveman days, if you got booted from the pack, you were dead, because people couldn't live on their own. They had to live in a pack system. Nowadays, in our environment, we have lots of people who live on our own, because we can go down to the supermarket and pick up our groceries. We can't hunt the woolly mammoth all by ourselves. So when you understand that your caveman brain is from pack, and I don't want to be rejected by you, because if I get rejected, or if you don't like me, then I'm going to be kicked out, and being kicked out of the pack means I'm dead.
Why hasn't that part evolved?
Oh, because this is our people call this lizard brain. They call it,
Or
right. It's
elephant
part
brain.
of our system that has been with us for hundreds of thousands of years. That's
I know,
never,
but why hasn't it evolved?
because it won't,
It just
because
won't.
it won't, because it's our internal protection system. We're always going to need a way to protect ourselves. Every animal has an internal protection system.
Well, yeah, but back in the day, I mean, the protection system, external protection systems were, bows and arrows and rocks and stones. Now we have machine guns and guns, right? Like we can evolve the protection
But
system.
that's external.
That's external, right?
Right. This is internal. And what protects you internally? That's the first thing, is how do you, and the reality is that our environment has changed a lot. Caveman brain has not, and it won't.
Okay, so how do they connect the dots to do that? Like it's so far beyond me. What you're saying makes sense. I get it. I have a hard time just adopting that belief that these guys connected the fact that a salesperson has call reluctance
Mhm.
to being rejected as a caveman, and that's why they have call reluctance.
Okay, so let me fast forward a little bit and give you the spot in between. There are 4 places that caveman brain happens today. One is your parents. The second one is your culture. The third one is your childhood. and your fourth one is your life experiences.
Okay.
So caveman brain is always going to be there to protect you. I use this story as an example. When we were little as children, your parent, mom or dad, probably said to you, don't talk to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to strangers is a bad thing. Like that's when the big black van comes and takes you away, and right, and don't take candies from strangers, don't talk to strangers, right? Don't talk to strangers. That is something that our parents teach us from when we're little. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One day, my son, he was little, he was like 5 or 6 years old. He says to my mother, Grandma, what does mommy do for a living? And my mom, without hesitating, says, she speaks to strangers all day long. And I thought to myself, wow, don't we teach people not to speak to strangers? When do we get permission to start speaking to strangers?
We don't.
Because we speak to strangers all day long as adults. So what we learn in childhood, what we learn from our parents, what we learn from our culture, what we learn from our life experiences impacts how we handle things. So when you talk about call reluctance, the fact is that if you learned from your parents not to speak to strangers, or you don't want to interrupt somebody, or you're not sure if you're going to be liked, or you're not sure if the person is going to be able to react to your message positively, why would you want to pick up the phone and call somebody?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
And now that goes back into your caveman brain, because your caveman brain says, well, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to be unhappy. I don't want you to be in a place that you could be perceived as dangerous. So therefore, I don't want you to pick up the phone. And now the phone becomes really heavy because all of this information is swirling around, usually on the subconscious level. And what we do is you bring that up into the conscious and start to work through it. And then the next thing you know, you can pick up the phone and have the conversation.
Okay, so I have this concept. I mean, I do quite a bit of business coaching myself, and I'm a firm believer in the subconscious mind controlling what we do. And I have this concept of taking yourself to court, taking your beliefs to court.
Okay.
And so when you say you bring it up to your awareness, to me, that's really reasoning with that system. Am I really going to die? Okay, let's pretend we're in a courtroom and we got this belief that if I pick up the phone, I might die, on the stand. And we have a prosecutor, we got a defense attorney. We are going to just fire at this belief. Is that kind of what you do, or what do you do?
So what we look at is that we call it baggage on the train. And we think
Okay.
about, as opposed to a courtroom, and we say we have to identify the baggage, because usually it's other people's baggage, not your own. And
Yeah.
you got to throw that baggage off the train because it no longer serves you.
So you help them figure out where they picked that baggage up first.
And then get it off the train. So I get lots of people who have this story. I don't know if this happened to you. This does not happen to me. But I brought home a test that I got a 97% on, and my parent, my mom or dad, asked me where the other 3% was. So I'm always looking for the other 3%. And I'm like, wow, 97% in new business development is an A plus. Like I would take 97% all day long. So stop. So then people beat themselves up. There's perfectionism. The reality is that if you're operating at 97%, nowadays, off you go. Use that as success.
If I had 97% in anything, I think my mom would, if Facebook did exist back then, my mom would have a Facebook party and the whole world would know that I got a 97%. You know what? You know what happened to me? I'll tell you my story. I was born in Russia, so English is my second language. When we came to America, I was about not 4 years old. I was in fourth grade, but we got here in March. So by the time I finished off the school year, they kept me for another full year of fourth grade. And I remember sitting in class, the teacher asked me to read something, and the word Arkansas came up. And I've never seen that word before. So I've read it the way it looks, Arkansas. I still remember this because everybody laughed. The teacher laughed. And now you forward, 36, 37 years later. And I just figured this out about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, about myself. I public speak, I present in front of rooms, and what would happen, and I really enjoy doing it. And what would happen is before I would go on, my stomach is bubbling and turning. palms are super sweaty, heart feels like it's beating out of the chest. I'm so nervous, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why. It like became the norm
Mm-hmm.
until I realized that that's why. Going back to that one day in the classroom where everybody laughed, I said to myself somewhere in my little mind, I said, I'm never speaking in front of people again, because if I mess up, they're going to laugh at me and I don't want to be laughed at.
Eric, thank you for proving caveman brain and where things come from in terms of your childhood, because that right there, luckily you were really good about getting over it and became the norm. That whole story, often people will not overcome it. You did. Congratulations. But that's
Thank
the
you.
caveman brain story. Yeah. You did something in childhood. You had a negative reaction. Fast forward 30 years. Now you're up as an adult doing all of this. And yet you're experiencing things that came from when you had that negative experience.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be negative experience. I just shared this on my friend's podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's like, I'll ask you the same thing. If you put on pants in the morning, what leg do you put in first?
I don't know if I know what leg I put in first.
Think about it. Just picture yourself putting on pants. Which leg's going up first?
I'm a girl that does either one, depending on what leg I would feel good about.
Really? You're
Yeah.
an anomaly. Most people know exactly. Well, I asked him. He said left leg right away, like off the top, boom, this leg. I said, well, how did that happen? No, I said, how did you know that was the answer? He said, well, that's how I always put my pants on every single day. I said, well, how did that happen? He said, I don't know. I said, I know exactly how it happened. He said, how? I said, look, you were 2 years old. Your mom bent down. You're holding to her shoulder. And she said, she rolled up the right leg and you picked up the left leg and she smacked it and said, give me the other one. And from that day, you were programmed that that's the leg that goes in first.
Well, that's again caveman brain, right?
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. And once you realize that your caveman brain is everywhere and the four places it comes from, then you can live such a beautiful life because you can change that baggage. So interesting. I suspect that I used to dress myself. My mom was not a very, my mom's wonderful. I love my mom, but she was not very attentive as a mother. She was 22 years old when I was a kid, like when I was born. So, I think I got myself dressed. Yeah, she was a kid. And I think I got myself dressed, which is why I probably don't know which leg, because I dress like I'm sitting down, I'm standing up, I'm putting one leg. I'm thinking to myself, really? I'm gonna have to now notice what leg I use.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, for you probably more than me, but to figure that out. But once we see these patterns, I mean, we brush our teeth the same way, we put our clothes on the same way usually. So that's what you call caveman brain. I absolutely love it. Okay. So talk to me about the title of your book.
Which you don't love. Give up goals and the results are yours.
I'm very open-minded, right? So I'm very curious about give up goals and results are yours. I think you may be saying, you may be doing the same thing I'm doing, just using different verbiage, but let's see.
I love that. Okay, let's see we're on the same page.
Yeah.
In my coaching practice, in my consulting business, often when people come to us, they are stuck. They haven't achieved the thing that they would like to achieve. They haven't unlocked their potential into performance yet. Or they're successful and they want to get more successful, right? So there's something that has to be unlocked. And what would happen in the conversations is we would talk about their goals and what their goals look like. And I started to do research on goals. There's a research study that says only 5% of people actually make goals and 2% of people actually achieve their goals. And so what I wrote in this book was like, well, what is the other 95% of us doing if we're not even talking about goals? We don't even, and look, what's the other 98% of us doing if we're not even achieving our goals? And when I had that conversation with the Harvard neuroscientist, he said to me that in reality, goals are not action-oriented. Results are action-oriented. So when you start to think about how your brain thinks, again, going back to innovative brain science, results is something that a brain can understand. What result am I looking for?
All right. Now I need a definition, right? Like how do you differentiate a goal from a result?
So this is an easy goal, right? I want to lose 10 pounds. That's a goal. I want to lose 10 pounds. How many of us want to lose 10 pounds? None of us ever seem to be able to lose 10 pounds because all the things we have to do to lose 10 pounds, we get lost along the way. So what I invented something called Z to A thinking, which is you start with the end in mind. What is it that I want? So I want to be 10 pounds lighter, right? Whatever that number is. And is it really about 10 pounds lighter, or is it really about being healthier? Or is it really about fitting into your pants? Or what is the actual thing that you want to achieve because of this thing that you want to do? And you start at the end, you start at Z. And then what we do is you keep working backwards. So I want a client. Right? I want to work with a new client. Great. What do you need to do? Well, I need for that person to pay me, because unless they pay you, they're not a client, which means I need them to sign the paperwork, which means I need them to say yes, which means I need to I'm in the middle of a meeting with them, which means I have to get a meeting on my calendar, which means I have to get them to say yes to finding a meeting on my calendar, which means I have to actually find them to start the conversation, right? That's working backwards. And once you know all those steps, you can play those steps forward to get you to where you want to go. Our brains.
But where you want to go is the goal.
No, where you want to go is the outcome. It's not a goal, it's an outcome. A goal to me is something that if I get there, I get there. If I don't get there, I don't get there. How many people in organizations?
Well, how is the outcome if you get there, you get, well, no, because that you're definitely going to get an outcome. You may not get the outcome that you want, right?
That's right.
But that's not intentional. Like, how do you, you said Z to A, right?
Yeah, Z-Day thinking.
So the Z, once you set the Z, you're setting a certain outcome. Because if you don't do C or D or E or F, you're still going to get an outcome. It won't be your Z outcome.
Correct.
Right. So you can throw the dart, not have a bullseye there, and then wherever it hits, run up and hit the bull, circle the bullseye around the dart later. That's one way to do it.
You change the outcome.
Look, the Z is the goal.
The Z
the
is
outcome is the goal.
It's not the goal, it's the outcome.
What's the goal in this situation?
The goal. So let's talk about organizations for one moment. An organization sets goals all the time. Right? We have a target of, right? We set goals in our performance reviews. And then what happens is, how often when we set those goals in an organization or a performance, how often do we meet them? And as you said, we might go down the goal path of being able to achieve that. And then we veer off a little bit and we achieve something else. We didn't achieve that goal. Like I want a gold medal. Okay. There's what is her name?
Is that a goal or an outcome?
So to me, it's an outcome. So Nastia, what's her last name? She was a gymnast, and she did a vision board, and she said, I am going to win a gold medal. Yes. It's not my goal to get a gold medal. I don't have a goal to get a gold medal. I am going to win a gold medal. And she actually won more gold medals than Shawn Johnson, who was like the person who was supposed to get the gold medals. And when they had the interview, which they were best friends, Shawn Johnson said, well, my goal was to get a gold medal. And Nastia said, yeah, my outcome was to get my outcome was to get the gold medal.
What's the difference? I still don't understand the difference between an outcome, a result.
Who got the gold medal? So it's a slight difference in the sense that Shawn said, my goal is to get a gold medal. Did she get it? No, she didn't.
What if Nastia said that her goal was to get a
She didn't. Nastia said, my outcome, she said, my result is to get a gold medal. There's a difference.
Yeah, so let's unpack that. So what you're saying is, if those two, same skill level, same everything, everything happened the same exact way, if Nastia only said, my goal is to get a gold medal, and Shawn said, my result is to get a gold medal, then the gold medals would be reversed?
Yes, like, Shawn would have won.
Just because somebody said goal versus result?
No, because how your brain operates.
Tell me about that.
So your brain, the way your brain operates, it operates in very specific steps. And it thinks about what you're looking to achieve. So it needs an actual
goal.
Destination.
Yeah, I call that a goal.
It's not. How many goals have you, let me ask you this, how many goals have you gotten that you didn't, how many goals have you set that you didn't achieve?
Oh, a lot.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
How many results have you set that you didn't achieve?
I don't think I ever set a result.
Why don't you try it? And then I'll come back on your podcast in 6 months and see what it looks like.
I don't understand the difference between a result and a goal.
So a result is an act. So a goal is something that, and I write this in the book, a goal is something you would like to achieve. I want to achieve that. I want a goal. And actually our brains do not react to words that go down, they react to words that go up. So like goal is a very low word in your voice. Goal. I
Not
want
in
to
soccer. Have you been to like a soccer stadium or a football?
goal.
Yeah.
Still, you don't go goal. It's hard to make it sound high. It's a low word, and our voices act to higher pitches. Like, so result goes up at the end. This happens in dog training too. Like sit is better than sit because they react to a higher level voice. So the fact is that goals, and I can, if you want, I'll open up the book to read it to you from the book.
No, I
Goals,
want you to tell me.
yeah. So goal setting is also not goal getting. Most people set
Right.
goals,
Yes.
right? And they don't achieve them.
But do most people set results and achieve them?
Yes.
Give me an example of an average Joe who sets results that are achieved versus
I
goals.
guess I'll say to you that every single person who comes to and I'm saying this like it's 100% certainty. Every single person who comes and works with us has a goal. We change it to a result and they achieve that result.
You change the name of it, or like if somebody comes to you and they say, my goal is to make $1 million a year, which is $83.3 thousand a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You say, hold on, let's change that. Your result is to make $83.3 thousand per month.
Correct.
But you
Yeah.
don't actually change what it is that they're after. You're just
Oh
changing.
no, now you got to change. Now you got to change. That's the Z. Now you got to talk about what's the Y, what's the W, what's the X. You got to start talking about those. And is it realistic? Because here's the other thing about goals. Goals are often not realistic. So let's say you wanted to make $1 million, which is 83,333,333, right? Okay.
Right.
So in simple terms, what we would do is say, okay, brain doesn't think in 83,333,333. Brain thinks in very simple terms. So the first thing is that you can't achieve that result because the brain can't comprehend it. The brain can comprehend this. If you did $80,000 a month divided by 4, it's $20,000 a week. Divided by 5, right, is $4,000 a day. Mm-hmm. It is much easier for you to be able to go out and say, I got to close a $4,000 client every single day to achieve my $80,000, to achieve my $1 million. Now you're going to be a little short because it's 83. So your $3,000 times 10's 30, another 6, so you're $36,000 short, right? So we could, so then we have to say to yourself, okay, is it easy to do like 90,000 and do 90,000 divided by 4? The math's not as easy as opposed to 80. So then we might say it might be $4,000 plus one more. So so the reality is the easier you can make the result, the steps to the result, the more likely your brain will get you there because it can figure out, okay, a $4,000 client looks like X, as opposed to, and I have to get out my calculator to do this, my 83,33333 divided by 4. So maybe it's my 4325 client looks like this. And the brain can't comprehend that. So often will happen is then you'll stop because it's hard to find a 4325 client, but it's super easy to find a $4,000 client. And maybe what we say is that what I would do is say, okay, instead of a $4,000 client every day, find a $5,000 client every day. And we talk about what a $5,000 client looks like, because if you do $5,000 times 5 days a week, it's 25. 25 times 4, right, is 100. 100 times 12 is 1.2.
Yep. And this math lesson is brought to you by Math for Murray.
But that's how that's how the caveman brain thinks. So the more complex you make it, the harder it is to achieve.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
Good, thanks.
So some people have the concept of micro goals. You guys just really changed the name, goal to result. And maybe the word goal in itself has a negative connotation on the brain that I never heard of before or thought about.
Yeah, that's because Eric, I can't mess up your brand into being the goal guide. And perhaps you're, in terms of guiding people, that to me, you're guiding people to their goal. So that's much better than people being guided to nothing.
Or a result.
You can guide them to a result, which is awesome as well.
Yeah.
I have just found that in my experience working with people, goals don't work because they just can't figure out how to achieve them. Now, maybe guided goals, and that's a different way of looking at it than
They
just
can't
a
figure
regular
out how
goal.
to achieve it. Okay. There's so much, me and you, um, there's, what you're saying, the meat of it makes perfect sense. I mean, your process and my process sounds like exactly the same. You're taking them to a result. I'm taking them to their goals. I do an exercise with people called history of your future, meaning your dreams came true. Everything came your way. We're speaking 12 months from today and everything happened exactly how you want it to happen. Describe your life to me.
Mhm,
And they do. All right. Now tell me all the steps you took along the way to get you there.
mhm.
Right. So to me, that's goals. It sounds like exactly what you said, except for you called it results. But there are a couple of things I want to challenge you on. Number
Yeah.
one, you mentioned they have to be realistic.
Mhm.
The what do
Define
you
realistic.
yeah, like who sets what's realistic?
Okay, so I'll give you a great example. We had a woman who was a financial advisor out of California. She shows up at our doorstep and says, I need to get better at new business development. We said, great. She said, my manager wants me to have 40 appointments every week. Okay, 40 appointments every week. Divide that by 5, right? So now you know how many you need a day. I would look at it 50 appointments because it's easier to divide 50 by 5, which would be 10 a day. But
Mm-hmm.
okay, so it's around 8 a day, which may be 1 an hour if you want to look at it that way. And I said to her, well, do you know 120 people to have appointments with? She said, no. I said to her, okay, well, how many appointments does it take for you to get a client, to close a client? And what's your average sale? And is it really? And she said to me, well, I don't remember exactly what she said, but let's just say like every client was $1 million. I said to her, okay, how many millions of dollars do you need every month to reach the target that your manager would like you to reach? And she said, I'm supposed to bring in $12 million. So I said, so basically you don't need to see 40 appointments every week. It sounds to me like you need to find 4 people every week to get one $1 million client. So the manager had sent her on this path that was unrealistic. She couldn't figure out how to get 40 appointments to get $1 million client. Her metrics were wrong. A lot of times and I'm sure you experience this too, people's metrics are so off because they don't know how to get to the result that they're looking for. So the fact is that once you figure out what the metric is, that helps you get where you need to be. And so a lot of people show up with unrealistic results, like unrealistic goals. You're never going to see 40 people. I don't know 120 people. I don't
But
even
that's
go to
not
enough
the I
events.
don't know if that's the goal. The goal is to sell the 12 million, right?
The
I mean,
goal is to
the
sell,
manager is messing up here. He's not setting her up for success. That's
right?
terrible leadership.
But a lot of people don't set themselves up for success. And really the reality is that when you start to think about what's realistic and what isn't, our brains set us on a path that sometimes is unrealistic for what the result we're looking for.
Yes, but the result needs to be realistic. I think I'm talking to you about results, right? Like I think you mentioned they set unrealistic goals. And when I think of unrealistic goals, I think of Elon Musk. I think of the Wright brothers, right? You mentioned they don't know how to achieve it. Well, I mean, let's just take the Wright brothers, for example, right?
Okay.
They created the airplane. They were the first ones to create an airplane. That was pretty unrealistic back then.
No, I think that they were very determined to prove people that they could fly. And if you
Sure, but
read,
there was no flight school.
no, but if you read about what they did, which was really fascinating, they were located in Chicago. Chicago is the windiest city in the world. What they didn't want to do was fail in front of the world. And so what they did was they moved to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, where there wasn't anybody to see them. And the wind in Kitty Hawk was similar to the wind in Chicago. And
Okay.
so they were able to, because they were determined to fly. They just didn't want to fail in front of other people.
Okay, but when they told their idea to other people would say that's not realistic.
No,
A
I
flying
think that's,
machine.
well, I think that's a no, I think that's their idea is different than a result. They have an idea, they have a concept. I mean, we're really getting into semantics about this, but it wasn't my, I'm going to
But the
fly.
result just happened to be the idea.
No, I think they said they started on an A and that I would like to, we want to make a flying machine. And
Yes.
I said, okay,
All
that's
right. So we want to make a flying machine. What is that? That's an idea
an
and
idea.
a result and a
Well,
goal, or just an idea?
so to me, that would be an idea. I
Okay,
want
but
to,
then they actually made a flying machine. So what?
so they got a result of making the flying machine. And in many ways, their belief and their unwillingness to take on other people's thought processes, like that will never happen. I mean, how many people say that to you? That will never happen. That will never happen. You probably even said to yourself, I don't want to speak in public. People will laugh at me. And yet you were like, no, you know what? I'm doing it anyway. And I'm super successful at it. So,
Mhm.
right. So people often, and again, our brains are this way because our brains are trying to protect you when we say, no, don't do that. It's a protection system. I'm using my belief system and I'm putting it onto you. That's a dumb idea. Why would you do that? You don't want that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Right. So and we take all that information and all day long. And what I say to people is that's about them. It's not about you. So the Wright brothers were like, yeah, that's about you that you think it's a dumb idea. We think it's a great idea. We're going to keep going forward. Why not? I have to tell you, whether you like him or hate him, Elon Musk is like, that's a great idea and I'm doing it.
Right.
Right. He's like, you people think it's stupid. Great. That's fine. I'm doing it because I really believe in it.
Right. And that's why I don't subscribe to the concept of realistic goals.
I think that you have to think to yourself, if you have a belief in doing it, I don't think Elon says, this is my goal and is it realistic or not? I think Elon Musk has a belief that this is what's going to happen and I'm going to will it into existence.
Yes.
Right? My boyfriend often says to me, I don't know how the heck you do it, but you will stuff into existence. Yes, I do. But that's talking about like the power of the universe and faith and energy. And that's a whole
Yes.
conversation.
No, that's my world. I love that world.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation than results. Because that's about the belief and that's about
A
how you
clear vision, clear
uh,
understanding of what
I
it
don't
is that you want.
I don't think it's a clear understanding sometimes. It's I just know I want this and therefore this is going to happen.
Well, that
Period.
sounds pretty clear to me. I know I want this. Most people don't know they want whatever it is that
Anything.
they want.
Yeah, they don't. And then what happens is that you put out I want this and then people take shots at it and they tell you how terrible you are and how that's never going to work. And you've got to have a really good, strong system. You have to have a really good belief system, caveman brain, to make sure to say, like, well, no, too bad. Like Elon Musk doesn't care what people think about him. He doesn't care if people like him or not. He doesn't feel that he has imposter syndrome. He doesn't care if he loses money, status, or reputation. He is about like he doesn't care about fear of rejection or fear of failure. He has none of that. And yet, so many people have all of those things when they're doing results building or guided goal setting, if you want to go with that.
I gotcha. So what happened to his reptilian brain?
I suspect that either he was born with this, because you can be born that way depending on what you're
Just fearless. He would have been eaten by a dinosaur very quickly back in the day.
probably he might have, yeah. I mean, we have filters, and it's interesting because I've got friends who are like, I don't have that filter. So depending on again, childhood, parents, life experiences, culture, that developed who he was. And he made a decision of this is what it's going to be like for me.
Mm.
What's interesting, like you hear about like Malcolm Gladwell, who I love. I know some people don't, but I love him. He talks about the fact that he grew up with no television, that he grew up with these egg-headed parents and how they looked at things very differently. Well, he's made a whole career on looking at things differently, which he learned from his parents. And he
Yeah.
spent hours researching what people think is normal and looking at it in a different way.
Yeah.
And we're like, wow, that's amazing.
I know he wrote Blink, but did he also write David and Goliath?
Yes.
Yeah, that was really an eye opener for kind of looking at that story through that lens. And he put it in perspective where everybody thinks Goliath had the advantage, but David really had the advantage in that
Yeah,
situation.
he did. He
Yeah.
talked about weaponry and why this weaponry was different, and he was using the latest technology, and Goliath was not, right? And think about the story that we're told as children all the time. So to me, a lot of how you're, again, those 4 areas really can impact you. I don't know anything about Elon Musk's background. I don't necessarily follow him, but I suspect that he made some decisions or along the way to think the way he thinks, which is why he's successful.
Yeah. No, I don't know much about him either. I just see the results. But okay, so somebody's stuck. How do you get them to uncover what happened to them and bring that into the present moment? Because a lot of it is subconscious, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of it is subconscious. I absolutely do believe that. So when people come to me, they often say, and maybe you get this too, I would like X. I want X.
Yeah. What do
But
you think?
I can't get to X. Okay, well, what have you tried to get to X? We have a participant in one of our programs right now. She's got such great potential. We're a very highly prescribed program. Like, we will tell you what to do, and you have to feel comfortable doing it. We think there's many paths to heaven, is what we say. So we'll say, like, does that work for you? Would you try that? Go off and do it. This woman does not want to put any time into anything. So she's not, so when she says, I want this, we're like, yeah, well, why aren't you doing this?
Is that the goal or the result?
That's the result that she wants. So you have to do the action steps to get to the result. If you're not going to do the action steps, then you don't get the result.
Well, same with the goal.
Well, you have to do action steps.
Of
You have to,
course.
let's put it this way. Can you and I agree, Eric, that we're both talking about the end game?
Absolutely. 100%.
So
I'm
what,
calling it a goal. You're calling it a result.
right. And we'll just go with that for the moment.
Okay.
Even though, I think offline we might have like lots more conversations about why it's not goals, and you're going to have lots more about like why it's not results. But
I have no idea, but all right. At the end of the day, it's getting people to where they believe they want to go.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
How do you get them? So like, how do you get them unstuck? I'll ask you that question. How do you get them unstuck? What do you do?
Yeah, you really want to get very clear on where it is they want to go, and then set up a system moving backwards, kind of like the history of your future. And then you analyze every single step of the way. Where were you stuck on this step? What are you seeing? And by the way we do anything is the way we do everything. Chances are they're stuck in other areas of their life. What do you So the goal is to help them find, the way I do it is to help them find similarities of how they're doing things in different areas of their life, and try to really become aware of it and see it and notice it, and then give them the tools or create tools with them that when this happens. So for example, this happens in forms of procrastination with many people. I know I got to pick up the phone and call people, or I know that I have to create a proposal. You'll sit down, for me, for example, I'll open up the proposal, whatever, and then this little bing, you should really check your email because there may have been something. And then I'm on the computer, but I'll pick up my phone and I'll look at the email really quick. And then I see a notification on Facebook, and now I'll go to Facebook. And then, well, now I'm on Facebook. I got to take a selfie, or I got to post something and respond. And then I remembered that I did not wash the dishes that are in the sink. And then I'll go down there to wash the dishes. And I say, okay, well, shoot, now it's time to go get the kids from school. And tomorrow comes, and I'm like, well, I could do this proposal tomorrow. Right? So that's how it plays out. And it's so automatic. Like, people don't even know they're doing it. I'm at the point of my life where I catch myself doing these things on autopilot, and I learn to pause and just say, hold on. What's going on here? Because I know I got to get this done. Why am I not doing it? What's holding me back? And then you just, get back on track, do it, and move on.
There's a great TED Talk on procrastination. If you just Google TED Talk procrastination, I don't know his name, but he talks about the procrastination monkey and the procrastination monster. It is a wonderful.
I think I've seen that. It's hilarious.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about procrastination in such a different way. So it's distraction, right? It's how do you stay focused on what you need to be doing? And a lot of people aren't able to do that, especially in today where we're like, okay, ding. You have to,
So hard.
it's challenging. And just think about, this is our generation. Can you imagine what Generation Z and Generation C are going to be like? Like they're going to, they're growing up with phones. They're going to be all over the place. And our brain chemistry is changing because of the technology.
Sure, but that's not with everything we do, right? I mean, like, I really, really enjoy working out or riding my motorcycle. I have zero desire to get distracted on my motorcycle, stop and look at emails or not do what it is I want to do because I enjoy it, right? And so we can blame this distraction or procrastination, but it all comes back to what you said, that caveman brain, and we really have to uncover it, because if it's distraction that's causing us not to do what it is we set out to do, then we would be distracted at everything we do.
Well, if you think about this, if you're riding your motorcycle, first of all, you may not hear the ding. And the second thing is that if you're dinging while you're riding a motorcycle, you're probably going to be dead. So I just say,
No, I'm
however,
thinking I got to watch, my phone's in the pocket, it's
but
vibrating. I
if
have
you're
zero desire.
yeah,
Right?
but you're driving a car. How many people are like, oh, look, ding, crash, right?
Okay, yeah, good point.
Right?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
it may have,
take the motorcycle off, but like if I'm doing something that I enjoy doing, like something that's fun to me, the dings aren't, I'm not paying attention to the dings.
yeah, but I think the fact is, if you're thinking about the proposal, how do you make that fun? This is, and it's an interesting conversation around work because, there's all this quiet quitting going on and, people really don't want to work anymore. And how does work become fun? Because used to, when I grew up, work was work and play was play. And work wasn't really always fun.
And maybe it just doesn't need to be fun. Maybe we just need to get off our ass and say, listen, this doesn't have to be fun, but it does have to get done. Like not everything in life needs to be fun.
Right. You just have to do it. And Buddhists have a wonderful saying. I had a friend who was a Buddhist, and he'd say, Buddha says that to do the things you love, you have to chop wood and carry water. So the idea is that you have to do activities that you may not love in order to get to do the things that you do love.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
And I often think about that when we call it the grind. When you're in the grind, like I have to write this proposal, it's a grind, and I really want to do this. And we talk about how you manage the grind, because that's a cold caveman brain situation. And I often think about, well, in order to do the things I love, I got to chop wood and carry water. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm chopping wood and I'm carrying water.
So you gave yourself a scenario, like a visualization almost, that when you feel yourself procrastinating, it's like, hey, this is the wood chopping.
Yeah, this is wood chopping.
Okay.
Because I want to ride my motorcycle, I got to do the proposal because that's chopping wood and carrying water.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Lately, for me, it's been because I notice anytime it's something hard, physically hard or something like that, like I kind of back off a little bit. I'll try to avoid those situations. And my last few podcast guests were like Navy SEAL and Bedros Koulian, who's like just has some incredible programs for men. And the theme everywhere is you have to find something hard to do every day just so you could get better, because resistance is causing that. And so like today I didn't want to do something physical, and that voice came in my head and I was like, how are you going to get better? You got to go do that so you can get better. But I think now I'll start seeing that chopping wood and carrying water thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. The wall of resistance, we call that the wall of resistance. We got that. I spent a whole year learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because I think a lot of times we all seek comfort, and yet that prevents us from doing the things of chopping wood and carrying water.
Yeah.
So how do you get uncomfortable and be okay with it? Jesse Itzner wrote a great book called Living with a SEAL.
Oh, I love that book. That's the funniest book I've ever read.
Oh my God, I laughed out loud on the airplane. It was so funny.
Yep.
And it really taught me about how to be uncomfortable and be okay with it. I mean, the guy's, like running in sub-degree weather and doing push-ups in his suit. I think to myself, I don't want to do push-ups in my suit. Yet at the same time, you got the business. So Seal says became a saying in my family. Seal says.
That's pretty cool.
Seal says. And the one thing is that we used to always be cold, and Seal says you can always get warmer. You can't get cooler. So
That is funny.
we're no
Yeah,
longer
the
cold in
seal
my
in that book that he lived with was actually David Goggins.
Yeah, it was. But at the time, no one knew him.
Yeah, no
So
one
it
knew.
always, but we just call he's Seal. Seal says.
Yeah, no,
Seal
Jesse Itzler is amazing. I follow him absolutely. I've seen him speak at 10X a couple of years ago, and he's just so awesome. He's got the Build Your Life resume, just great concept. So, how do people get a hold of you, or what programs do you have that can help our folks get unstuck?
Oh, thanks so much. So if you want to go to Caveman Brain, there's a couple ways you can start to get our growth results tips that we send every Monday. I send something that you could actually do, an actual step to help you get better in business results. We have the Caveman Brain Business Growth System if you're ready to jump in and want to learn how to be results oriented and achieve the thing that you want to achieve. And then we have a lot of virtual trainings that we offer to people. Our mission is to leave you better than we found you. So we really want to make sure that whether you work with us or not, you are super successful. You get a result. After all, I am the results queen. So cavemanbrain.com is the best way to go find us and interact with us. And we look forward to interacting with you.
Love it. So cavemanbrain.com. Go check out Dr. Jean. If you suck at setting goals, she might have a better option for you. That option is results. If we're not friends on Facebook yet, get over to the group Lead Sell Grow, the Human Experience Tribe. Would love to have you join. And thank you for listening and tuning in. You guys have an awesome day. Thanks for being here, Dr. Jean.
Thanks so much. Have an awesome day.
You too.